Cozy Cloud Stories.
Elizabeth and the Grasshopper's Green Mission. Today we will enjoy the heartwarming story of Elizabeth and her grasshopper friend, Hoppy, who through their perseverance and hard work, transformed their town into a lush green paradise. Willowshade was a picturesque town, once surrounded by green forests, bubbling brooks, and fields of wildflowers. Elizabeth, an adventurous little girl with bright eyes and an even brighter heart, loved every inch of it. Her best friend was a clever grasshopper named Hoppy, who could leap as high as the tallest oak tree and wore a tiny leaf as a hat. One morning, as Elizabeth played by the brook, Hoppy landed on her shoulder with a troubled look. "Elizabeth, look around. The brook is shrinking, the trees are disappearing, and the birds are leaving." Elizabeth's eyes widened as she noticed the bare patches of land and the thinning woods. "What's happening, Hoppy?" "The townsfolk are cutting down trees to build more houses," Hoppy replied. "If they keep this up, there'll be no nature left." Elizabeth clenched her fists. "We can't let that happen. Come on, Hoppy, we have to save Willowshade." Elizabeth and Hoppy decided they needed to replant trees. But first they needed seeds. They ventured into the nearby forest, which was still lush but felt quieter than before. As they collected seeds, a flock of crows swooped down, cawing loudly. "What are you doing with those seeds?" asked the leader, a particularly large crow named Craven. "We're collecting them to plant new trees," Elizabeth explained. Craven tilted his head. "These seeds are our food. What will we eat if you take them all?" Elizabeth thought for a moment. "What if we leave some seeds for you and only take what we need?" Craven considered this and finally nodded. "Deal. But you'd better keep your word." With the seeds secured, Elizabeth and Hoppy returned to the town. The next day, Elizabeth and Hoppy began planting seeds in the empty fields near the brook. They worked tirelessly, digging small holes and covering the seeds with soil. By evening, they were exhausted but proud of their progress. However, as night fell, dark clouds gathered and a storm rolled in. Heavy rain poured down, washing away many of the freshly planted seeds. The next morning, Elizabeth stood in the muddy field, heartbroken. "We worked so hard and now it's all ruined," she said, her voice trembling. Hoppy placed a comforting leg on her hand. "Don't give up, Elizabeth. Sometimes nature tests our resolve. We'll plant them again, and this time we'll protect them." Determined, Elizabeth and Hoppy replanted the seeds. This time they built small barriers around the planting sites using sticks and stones to prevent the seeds from washing away. But as the seeds began to sprout into tiny saplings, trouble struck again. A group of curious goats from a nearby farm wandered into the field and began munching on the young plants. "Shoo! Shoo!" Elizabeth shouted, waving her arms. But the goats didn't budge. Hoppy had an idea. "Let's talk to the farmer." Elizabeth ran to the farm and explained the situation to the farmer, Mr. Grumble, who was known for his gruff demeanor. "Why should I care about your trees?" he grumbled. Elizabeth took a deep breath. "Because trees give shade to your goats in the summer, and their leaves can feed them too. If we don't have trees, your farm will suffer as well." Mr. Grumble scratched his head. "You've got a point, kid. I'll keep my goats away from your field." Relieved, Elizabeth and Hoppy returned to their mission. Even with the seeds planted and protected, Elizabeth realized they couldn't do it all alone. They needed the town's help. She and Hoppy went door to door, explaining the importance of trees and asking people to join their cause. But not everyone was supportive. "Trees won't put food on the table," one woman said. "We need houses, not forests," a man added. Elizabeth felt disheartened, but Hoppy encouraged her. "Let's show them how important trees are." They organized a tree fair in the town square with games, crafts, and a tree planting demonstration. Elizabeth made colorful posters, and Hoppy hopped around spreading the word. The fair was a success. Families learned about the benefits of trees, how they provide shade, clean air, and homes for animals. Many townsfolk agreed to help plant and care for the trees. As the months passed, the saplings grew into small trees, and the brook began to flow more steadily. But one day, Elizabeth and Hoppy discovered a new problem. Some people were cutting down the young trees for firewood. Elizabeth confronted them. "Please don't cut these trees. They're still growing and are vital for our town." "We need firewood," one man argued. Elizabeth had an idea. "What if we plant fast-growing trees just for firewood? That way we can protect these trees and still have what you need." The townsfolk agreed, and Elizabeth helped them plant a separate grove of fast-growing trees for firewood. With teamwork and determination, Willowshade began to transform. The once bare fields were now dotted with healthy trees. Birds returned, singing happily from the branches. The brook sparkled in the sunlight, and the air smelled fresh and clean. The townsfolk realized the importance of balancing development with nature. They promised to protect the trees and teach future generations to care for the environment. As Elizabeth and Hoppy stood under a tall oak tree they had planted months ago, Hoppy said, "You've done something amazing, Elizabeth." Elizabeth smiled. "We did it together, Hoppy. Nature needed us and we answered the call." Caring for nature means caring for ourselves. Even small acts of kindness towards the environment can lead to big changes. When we work together, we can overcome any challenge and create a better world. And so Elizabeth and Hoppy drifted off to sleep that night, dreaming of more adventures in their green, thriving town. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, please subscribe to our channel. We're committed to bringing you stories that inspire and add value to your life.